On paper, your life looks impressive. You achieve things most people only talk about. You don't do anything halfway. And yet, instead of feeling deeply satisfied, you feel relief. Relief that it's done. Relief that you proved yourself. And then your brain quietly asks, what's next? If that sounds familiar, you might be what's called an insecure overachiever. In this video, I'm going to explain how this pattern gets wired into us and why understanding it is nowhere near enough to stop it. Hi, I'm Andri. I was a physicist at CERN and later a senior data lead at a Fortune 50. Now I help insecure overachievers stop feeling like they're never enough and instead build a life they actually want. Before we get started, I wanted to clarify one thing. Being an overachiever on its own, or an achiever, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Ambition, drive, wanting to do great work. That's fine, that's great, blue skies, nothing wrong with that. That's not what we're talking about here. The challenge starts when we add the other word right before it, the word insecure. When what you do is a compulsion, a way to silence a secret fear that you're not good enough. That's when things get complicated. And that's what this video is about. This pattern, like everything, it has an origin. And for most insecure overachievers, it starts in a system. A family, a school, a culture, a system where love or approval felt conditional. Not because something necessarily dramatic or abusive happened. More often than not, it's something much more unnoticeable than that. Maybe a parent was lighting up when you were bringing home good grades, but went quiet when you didn't. Maybe it was a teacher who only paid attention to or praised the top students and ignored everybody else. Or it could be growing up in a household where achievements were noticed and celebrated, but you were invisible in any other ordinary moment. And here's what a child's brain does with that information. It makes a deal. If I perform well enough, I will be safe. I will be loved. I will belong. And that deal works in the beginning. Because yeah, you get the grades, you get the praise, you get into the best, shiniest university, you get the job at the fancy, famous company or institution. And every time it works, your brain reinforces the rule. Achievement equals worth. And here is the problem. That's not a belief you actually chose. It's a belief that was installed without you even realizing, without your permission. And like any deeply installed program, it runs in the background, whether you want it to or not. Here's what makes the pattern of achieving to feel safe so persistent. It's not irrational. It's just very outdated. But your body and your system haven't realized it yet. When you were younger, this strategy made complete sense. Work hard, prove yourself, earn your place. That's how you navigated the world. And it brought results, real ones. At some point though, most of us feel it. Maybe you're missing bedtime with your kids again. Maybe your partner says something. Maybe you just feel it in your body. This constant pressure that never really switches off. And for a moment you wonder, is this normal? Is this okay? And then the moment passes. And you are already on to the next thing. And the next one. And the next one. Because the pattern doesn't argue with you. It doesn't need to. It just pulls. And no matter how much you feed it, the promotion, the great project results, the perfect review, it's never full. You're intelligent, you're capable, you're often the most disciplined person in the room, which means you will rationalize the overwork. You will find very good reasons for it too. I just got promoted, I don't want anybody to think I'm not really worth it, or this project is high visibility, everything needs to be perfect. And the pattern keeps pulling. Slowing down doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels dangerous. Because if you stop, even for a moment, you're no longer the person who delivers. You won't achieve as much, and without your achievements, then well, who are you? Here is why it's so hard to stop even when you want to. There are two levels on this, and I want to walk you through both. Okay, so this is an example from my own life. In every single review I ever had at the Fortune 50 I used to work at, no matter how positive the view was, if my manager mentioned one small thing to work on, one tiny suggestion, that's where all my energy went. Not into the 9 good things, but into the one opportunity for improvement, as they would call it. I would go home thinking about it. I would find ways to demonstrate. I would fix it by the next meeting. At the time, I called it being growth-oriented, being coachable. It took me a long time to see it for what it actually was. The pattern running, doing exactly what it was designed to, turning every small gap into proof that I still wasn't enough. And here's the thing, I wasn't unaware. I had done serious personal work by this point. I understood intellectually, cognitively where this came from, but understanding it didn't stop it. Because this pattern doesn't live in the thinking brain, it lives in the parts of our brain that formed before we even had language, before we could reason, before we even knew what the word enough meant. It's not a thought, it's a reflex. And you cannot think your way out of a reflex. Okay, so that's level 1. Let's go to level 2, which is even more personal. That fear, that insecurity, that never good enough feeling you're constantly trying to feed, it doesn't just float around in the background. It shows up as a voice, your inner critic, the one that talks to you in ways you would never, ever, ever talk to a stranger, let alone a friend you actually like. That wasn't good enough. Anyone could have done that. Don't celebrate yet, you haven't proven anything. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Most high achievers want to silence the fear, the anxiety, the internal pressure, the never enoughness. At that voice, they want to keep that because they believe that voice is the reason they got here, that without it they would become lazy, complacent, average. So they live in this contradiction, trying to silence the feeling while holding on to the very voice that keeps feeding it. And that's exactly why the standard advice, be kinder to yourself, practice self-compassion, falls flat for this audience. It asks them to give up what they think is their superpower. This is why so many high achievers spend years trapped in this pattern without even realizing it. You feel insecure, you achieve so that you silence that feeling, you feel good for a moment, and then insecurity comes back. The real shift isn't about silencing that voice. It's about understanding where it actually comes from and realizing that maybe, just maybe, you could achieve everything you want without needing it to be quite so ruthless. That's the work. And I've seen it happening successfully with myself and with my coaching clients. But it starts with something most high achievers find genuinely difficult. Looking at that voice with curiosity instead of gratitude and asking, is this actually helping me? Or have I just lived with it for so long that I've started to think it's who I am? If you recognize yourself in this video, the next one is definitely going to matter to you. It's called the hidden life of insecure overachievers. The specific behaviors and thought loops that most people never name out loud, but you will immediately recognize. You will find it over here. See you there. Bye-bye.